Welcome to The Writer's Dream, a forum where authors can talk about their writing, their publishing, and their marketing. Please visit us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page called The Writer's Dream if you have any questions or if you're interested in coming on the show. Today's guest is Lynne Heffner Ferrante. She is an author and an artist, and she has written a book which I refer to as a retrospective autobiographical memoir, and which is pretty impressive. And the name of the book has an absolutely beautiful name. I love the name of this book. It's The Untenable Fragrance of Violets, and the first volume is called Innocence Lost. Tell us about your book, Lynne.
Well, I've been working on it for many, many, many years. It started as a journal in the midst of a second marriage and a custody battle over my 6 of my children. And over the years, as I continued to work on my art, own galleries out here in the Hamptons, and do all these other things about living, it morphed into an autobiography. I used to sit in the gallery and just type and type and type in between clients. And before I knew it, I had thousands of pages of written text.
It's amazing how the muses visit us in the most unusual places, because I started writing my books while I was on library duty as a teacher. So it is something special about, I think there's something special about certain places that enable people to write. Do you find that?
Pretty much, but for me it's a different kind of a dynamic, because I'm a kind of a person that can never stay still. I have to be producing. If a day goes by that I haven't done completed some artwork or finished designing a garden or renovated a house or whatever, then I'm just very unhappy with myself. I get very cranky. So I have to keep creating all the time. And I bounce back and forth from painting and junk sculpture and all different manners of different genre of art, and writing just fit right in with that. It became a natural thing to do. Just another art form, you know.
Oh, writing? Yes. I tried to get into a crafts fair, an arts and crafts fair one time, and the person who was running it asked me, what is your craft? What are you bringing? And I said, books. And she said, no, we don't do books. So I emailed her back and I said, could you please reconsider? I said, authors are artists and our books are our creation. And she understood that. So I was able to do that book fair. But that's true. I think sometimes I think getting those words out there into a coherent story is harder in a way. You would know better because I am not an artist, than making a painting.
Well, art certainly is less able to be criticized because it's so subjective. I mean, you can only say I like it or I don't like it, but you can't say, well, that streak of blue is not aesthetically correct. You can say it doesn't please me. When it comes to writing, you better know what you're doing.
Yes, yes. So did you have any training as a writer?
Well, my mother was an English teacher, and she taught me to write, to print and then to write a script. As a 3 or 4-year-old, she had me tracing from some kit she bought, and she was very culturally oriented. She pushed me on every single level that there was in culture: music, dance, writing, painting. And I guess it was the painting that stuck initially, but I always wrote. I mean, and she was a Martinet.
Now, I've read part of your book and read excerpts from it and spoke to you, but and the writing is really, I found the writing very compelling and very beautiful. Did you have any formal training as a writer?
No, not really.
Yeah, see, I didn't either, and when I wrote, I felt really that I needed help, so I took a course. I mean, I say this on practically every show about how, you know, help along the way is not something that you should shun. Yeah. But, what was your motivation for writing the book? Why did you have a reason other than just chronicling your life? Or did you want to?
Well, initially,
give a message?
Yeah, initially, there was a lot of Sturm and Drang and alienation and rejection and all kinds of horrible things that happened during the course of that custody battle that I mentioned. And I'm somewhat estranged from some of my children, and it's painful. And I wanted to tell them the whole story. I wanted them to see it, just the whole thing, you know, warts and all, no holds barred, all those happy little cliches. And so I started to do it, you know, to tell the truth, you know, get the truth out there. And then gradually I found that it was just the putting together of a kind of another artwork that's like this massive collage of every piece of my life and showing, you know, I mean, it's a very varied bunch of experiences on every level. You know, at one point I even became a paralegal. I mean, those stories appear in book 3. This is a trilogy, actually, a trilogy with a sequel because it got so long. But I just began experiencing this, the creation of it as you would any other artwork, a painting or something, that I just had to just fill in the details here, flesh this out a little there, add a little more color, you know. And so it became, I began to approach it as if it were an artwork. I don't know if I succeeded.
Yeah, interesting, because your cover is a collage.
Yes.
And these are obviously family pictures, pictures of you when you were a little girl.
Yeah.
I see one picture there that really tugged at my heart, of you on a sled, and you and I are of an age.
Yes.
And I wondered if that was the blizzard of 47. Should I say that?
My goodness, I don't even think I put the episode that was in my mind about that blizzard. My mother and I had been to the city, to Carnegie Hall, to see some concert or other, and for my ballet and music writing lessons, et cetera, and to some museums. And she said, drag me all over the place. And when we got off the elevated train in the Bronx at 177th Street, and I stepped off what I thought was the side of the last step and fell in up to my chest.
Yeah.
So that's my memory of the blizzard of 47. This could have been any other snow. My grandfather, who was from Russia, Bessarabia, Romania, and he used to take me out. If you notice, I'm wearing a fur coat, and he has a fur hat. He was a furrier. So, and that's all written about in
Now you have 6 children?
I have 7, 6 from my first marriage, and the 7th is from my second marriage. What I've done is divided the trilogy into 3 separate marriages. The first book is about the first one. The second book, it just worked out that way. It just fell into itself that way, is about my second marriage, and the third book is about my third marriage, the one that stuck. And the fourth one is a sequel because even after dividing the book up into 3, I had too many pages, so I had to divide it again, you know.
I see. Now, you have 3 marriages, which
Yes.
for, I don't know whether this is a true statement, but for women of our age, we were brought up to believe that you got married for good. I have
right.
2 marriages. Is there anything in the book that deals with the whole concept of how we coped with the idea that we were going to get divorced, having married thinking that, I don't know if everybody who gets married thinks that it's going to last forever. I have had some shocking answers from people, but do you deal in any way with the change that occurred in our culture about marriage, divorce, women?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, that's pretty much what this whole thing is about. It's about the entire struggle. You know, in the 50s, we were chattels, women. It was before feminism really reared its head. And matter of fact, when I opened my first art school in 60-something, when I was planning to get a divorce and knew I would need to have income, and art was the only thing I knew, so I opened an art school. And Newsday and the Long Island Press at that time both wrote articles about me, and I happened to be at that time pregnant with my 6th child, so all these photographs of me that appeared in these articles, and they called me the first Long Island feminist, and I didn't even know what they were talking about. And all I knew was that I had to, after 9 years, I had to get out of that marriage because I was dissolving. And I also wanted something better for my children than to be around all this antipathy and angst and misery, and so I made this plan, and that's what I did.
What was your plan?
My plan was to open up a school, have this huge space to do my art, work on new ideas and concepts until I could come up with an art form that would be readily saleable so that I could then find outlets to sell it and support my children. And lo and behold, that's what happened. I mean, it was at the beginning of when American art came into the form. You have to remember that art was basically on the other side of the pond, as they say. And right there in the 60s, all of a sudden, people were aware of American artists. And that was my opportunity.
So why couldn't you do that within the confines of that marriage? And
Well,
I use the word confines.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly what it was. My former husband would not allow me to paint in the house.
Wow.
He would throw, if I bought paints and did it when he wasn't home and hid them, he would throw everything out. Finally, I, stood up on my hind legs and said, no, I'm going to paint. And I took some classes, and there are some stories in the book about that. Too many to go into right now. And ultimately I grew a little bit of backbone. I mean, I had been so subjugated, I had been unable to fight back.
Well, you were pregnant a good deal of the time.
Yeah.
It's hard to fight back when you're pregnant.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I did want the babies. I wanted babies.
I'm not saying that.
No, I really planned it.
Right.
I
but
think
still,
he probably
when
didn't.
you're pregnant, it's hard to fight
Well, there
a
are
battle.
those hormones and things happening.
Yes.
But I never had moral support.
So you got the divorce and you opened the studio.
No, I opened the studio first.
Okay.
And book one, ends at the point where I've gotten a divorce. I'm on my own and I'm struggling. And my friends see that I'm going under because it's just an impossible task, especially with a father who pays absolutely no attention to his children and does not offer child support or pays child support. So it was all on me, and I was falling apart, and my friends chipped in and bought me a ticket to Puerto Rico, and that's where book two starts.
Oh, book two starts in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
So tell us, can you give us a little overview of book two?
Well, yeah, I went there on a vacation, at my friend's instigation, and I was instructed very carefully to go to the gaming tables, and I am not a gambler, and to find a rich man who did not have either a wedding ring or a white spot where his suntan hid the fact that he had removed it. And so I'm all dressed up, and I was kind of gorgeous in those days. I mean, I was young,
Yes, yes.
Weren't we all once? And
I remember those
yeah,
days.
and so I go in there, and I met a couple of these, people, and I followed all the instructions and was bored to tears, and managed to meet and fall in love with a croupier, a Puerto Rican croupier, and picked up my kids and moved to Puerto Rico, and the rest is history.
Yes, and that was your second adventure, yes?
Yeah, and of course my first husband was an attorney, so it was extremely easy for him to, given just a little bit of impetus, to have custody changed. And so the entire book two is, if you've ever read Snow Falling on Cedars,
Yes.
It's a kind of a courtroom thing with the story sort of latched in flashbacks to that. And it's about fighting back for my children, losing them and fighting for them. And I won't tell you what happens.
No, okay. All right. And book three is about the marriage that stuck.
So
I met the marriage that stuck.
Yeah, you did. You met my
very
third
nice
husband.
man.
Yes, yes, he is. He's wonderful. And so at the end of book two, my second husband leaves, and I'm again a single mother of now 7 children with no help and lots of antipathy because there's another character, my first husband's second wife, who adds a lot of Sturm und Drang. I have to keep coming back to those words.
Yes, yes.
And drama, yeah, melodrama. And so at the end of book 2, I just barely give the part about meeting Joe, my third husband, but book 3 begins with our life together and goes all the way through our reincarnation or incarnations in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, several different homes that we built and renovated. And one of them was a 100-year-old, 8,000 square foot barn in Watermill that I renovated, and my mother moved in with us. It was another story. So book 3 has all of my Hamptons experiences, my gallery in West Hampton, in Quiog, in Southampton, Watermill, and it just covers a lot of territory.
And you don't have any galleries now, correct? There.
Oh, God, no.
Because it's a lot of work. Right?
It's a lot of work, it's a lot of commitment, and it takes up, it eats up your life. It eats up your life. I used to go to that gallery, I used to leave the house at 7 in the morning and stay open till midnight because people would be wandering around. It was summer vacation, and they'd wander in. And art is not a commodity that you can sell like 2 gross of underwear in 4 days or whatever it is, or bathing suits or shifts or whatever, shoes. You have to be there at the moment when lightning strikes.
That's right. Yeah.
And then I would get a $10,000, $20,000 sale from one couple, but if I wasn't there, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So I was there all weekend. So my husband used to bring me out sandwiches for lunch, and he'd have dinner waiting for me at home when I got home late, and we'd sit and talk for a while, and then I was off again. So I did that for 81 to 89, and then I said, no, I'm going to be an artist.
Well, you're wearing a piece of art.
Oh,
if
yes.
you'd like to just hold it up a little.
This
the camera
is,
can touch it. What did you
one of-
make that out of? That's beautiful.
It's made of the scraps of copper left over from one of my sculptor friends who does large welded pieces, and he would laser cut away the pieces he didn't want and throw them in cartons. And one day I caught him putting these out to the curb, and I said, "What are you doing with those?" And being an inveterate dumpster diver and junk collector, I do junk sculpture as well as realistic paintings and abstract paintings. I adopted them, and I used to sit at home. As I said before, I can never not do anything. I have to be working. So when the television was on at night, I'd sit there with my little needle nose pliers and this box of copper and just twist and turn and do these things.
It's beautiful. It really is
Thank you.
beautiful. And so talk about your art a little. Talk about what kinds of artwork you do and what your favorite pieces are.
Well, I started out doing a kind of an impressionist floral landscape genre. And it did me
big paintings.
Yeah, always
Beautiful.
big. It has to be big. Yeah.
Just
And I don't know. I fell into that. I was a realist originally, and then I fell into that because when I had the art school, I did a lot of research at the up-and-coming American local galleries, to see what was selling, and I adapted a little of this, and I adopted a little of that, and I put them all together, and I invented this style that seemed to go well with the public. And I used to do the outdoor shows, and I met a dealer who asked me how many I could do in a week, and I said, "How many do you want?" So at that point, I turned into there's a little thing in here about the Sorcerer's Apprentice. When my mother took me to Carnegie Hall for the young people's concerts,
Right.
and that became. You asked me about my muse, and so I would say that the Sorcerer's Apprentice became a kind of a muse for me because it was a question of how much can you get done, and I was doing all this mass production work because the more money I made, the better off I was because I had no help.
Sure.
So over the years, that morphed into a kind of a more artistic style as opposed to commercial. But still, when I had the gallery, people would come in and say, "Do you have something like that in blue?" It would be yellow and green. And so I did commissions, and that was my stock in trade. Did a lot of commissions. And then I tried abstract. And then I met this sculptor, and he was doing junk sculpture. And I said, "Wow, that looks like fun." And it was totally alien to me, and I decided to try it. And I said, "Well, this is fun." And I went on, and I did, one year I did sculpture and assemblage made of discarded styrofoam, polystyrene pieces from crates, from wrapping, from appliances. And I was written up about 30 or 40 times in all the local newspapers. And one of them, I forget which one it was, called me the Louise Nevelson of styrofoam.
Well,
This was in the 80s.
Have you been to the Museum of American Design? It's in the building that used to be, they used to call it the Alhambra Building. It's in Columbus Square. It was the Huntington Art Gallery. They have in there exactly what you're talking about. They have art pieces that are made of, there's one that's a couch made of women's shoes, high heel shoes. There's a room size magnolia made out of plastic spoons. So you were probably on the vanguard of that.
One of my most recent art forms, I don't know whether it evolved out of inspiration or necessity or just happenstance, is our sculptures made of discarded children's toys. When I used to hang out at the Springs dump on weekends.
I love that. Hang out at the Springs dump.
It was a great thing. They closed it now, and to all our detriment. And I used to find incredible. I used to read the furniture.
Imagine.
Yeah,
I did dumpster dive once in Southampton. I did once.
Yeah, they haven't let anybody there in a long time. I started collecting all kinds of things that I could use in my junk sculpture. And when I saw people bring in cartons full of little plastic toys, cars, and all kinds of baby things, and I started bringing, you get like, I have an obsessive personality anyway, so I got obsessive about taking home as many cars and little gewgaws as I could find. I have incredible, it's like in previous years when I was doing oil paintings, if I had come across a carton of oil paints, I would have grabbed it and taken it home. Well, canvases, I do that also, but these sculptures were inspired by the need to get rid of all of these things, and I couldn't throw them out.
Yeah.
And I had been working with mosaics of broken dishes also, which I still do. And so I said, well, if I think of these little toys, these pieces, as and some of them were broken, it was just pieces. And everything was like a mosaic, and it was like a texture, a color, a form, and I just started collaging these all over stuff.
It's interesting that you describe it that way because that's how your book is.
Yes.
The cover is like that, and so is the mosaic of your life, so to speak.
Exactly right.
And so there's like a theme that comes.
Yeah. So in that I'm consistent anyway.
Yeah.
And yet the funny thing is that at one point when I was still sending slides around to galleries, trying to get into galleries, one local gallery owner, who shall remain nameless, said to me, I can't represent you. And I said, why not? I mean, I look at these beautiful slides. I have an incredible selection of work. And she said, because you have no particular mode of personal perception. And I said, what does that mean? She says, you'd say too many things. She says, you have to give up everything and just concentrate on one art form. And I said, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, but that's really, I think that's probably key to being successful, I think.
Yes.
After you're successful, then you can do a million things.
I didn't have
to find that one. I think that's true of books too. In fact, let's spend a little time on that. You self-published, yes? You did it all yourself.
Mostly for the same reason. I figured at my age I don't have time to submit all these manuscripts and wait with bated breath for rejections and hope I outlive the,
Yes, that was exactly my feeling about my own books. But what do you think the best marketing technique is, either for art or, for artwork or for writing?
It's all about self-promotion. It's about getting out there, letting people know. It's about using your brain to ferret out new ideas and concepts and ways to spread the word. And of course, when I had the gallery, which was only a few years ago, it was all accepted. I mean, you sent out press releases, you had openings, you got celebrities, you did all this stuff, and now everything is social media, which is in a very good part alien to me. I'm learning how to Twitter, but it's boggling my mind.
Yes, I'm having. I think we all are. I think it's an adventure in, you have to look at it as, okay, this is like learning how to use my Cuisinart or whatever, or learning a particular, type of artwork. You have to learn it because it is part of the scene. In fact, you're going to make an appearance at the East Hampton Library. When is that going to be?
Yeah, well, the Suffolk County Library System purchased a number of my books to give around to the different libraries, and all of the, I don't know if anybody knows this, but all of the libraries on the island have what they call the Long Island Room, or the Long Island Collection, where they have everything there is to know about Long Island. And they were anxious to get the book because a very, very good part of it takes place on Long Island. And so they are doing a book reading and signing,
and you're doing this
September 15th at 3:30 p.m.
at the East Hampton
Library. Yes.
Okay. And what would you say is your best piece of advice to any artist, whether it's art form or writing? What's your best piece of advice?
Commitment.
Commitment, yeah. So you have to
focus and commitment. I mean, this thing was just cartons and cartons of different pieces of manuscript that some of which I loved, some of which I hated, some of which was so old that I had outgrown it. It needed to be completely redone. And it was in great need of organization and for some kind of presentation. And I got involved with Her Story in 2009. By happenstance, I wrote about it. Everything is in the book. Everything's in the book. And just by going to a writer's workshop, somehow I fell into what the format turned out to be. And by all advice, probably I should have written about 30 or 40 separate little novellas about each different thing that happened. But I had a lot of trouble separating them because they overlap and they sort of, they're all integrated and one feeds off the other. And also there was that question of how many manuscripts could I send out?
Yes,
and
exactly.
and that's probably more costly than an indie publisher.
Well, when book 2 comes out, you're going to have to come back because we're out of time.
Okay, thank you so much.
That was great.